Okay, let's get started. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome you all to this webinar where we will introduce the Marine Arctic Data Portal. We have a small agenda, which I hope you can see on the screen. And some practical information is that this webinar will be recorded and we will make it available afterwards. There's allocated time for questions after the presentations, but if we don't manage to reply to all the questions, we will save them and we will make sure that we reply to you after this session or sometime early next week. I will start by giving a short background information for why we have established this Arctic Data Portal. So my name is EuroGOOS. I'm employed by the EuroGOOS, and EuroGOOS is engaged in Copernicus in Situ coordination activity, where we have a special focus on Arctic data because the Copernicus services has requested more data from this region. So our aim is to improve the availability, quality, timeliness, and accessibility of essential in situ data from the Arctic region in support of the Copernicus services and the space component. I will mention a few other activities, and you will hear me mention 70% a number of times, so I just warn you on that. One activity that we have focused on is the funding and sustainability of in situ observations, primarily in Europe. And a couple of results shows that when it comes to meteorological observations, 70%, around 70% are based on institutional funds, while marine observations, 70% are funded partly or fully by research funds. And when it comes to sustainability, we have, again, more or less the same picture. Around 70% of meteorological observations are sustained, while 70% of marine observations are facing funding problems and thereby not fully sustained. We have also worked on establishing clear requirements for in situ observations. Here's an example for some ocean variables where we focus on uncertainty, update frequency, timeliness, and spatial resolution. This is fundamental for designing an observation system, but it's also fundamental if we are going to analyze gaps in the existing observation system. These numbers that I indicate in this table is in a very general open ocean requirements, and we are now working on fine-tuning these requirements for the Arctic region. We did last year a survey on the data availability for the Arctic based on whatever sources we could find, projects like INTAROS and what SEAN and others have done over the years, and pull all these information together. And I must say, it's not only ocean data, it's also cryosphere, atmosphere, atmospheric composition, and so on. So this report it was made available late last year. I shall not go into details with it, just mention a few conclusions. And one of them is that the Arctic is undersampled, especially the Central Arctic. Observations are based on national priorities, meaning that we lack international coordination of the in situ observation, which is something that is being worked on now on various programs like SEAN and UN Decade for the Ocean and so on. Data are stored at various places, national data repositories or projects places or international data portals and so on. But since a large percentage of the marine observations are done via project funds, all these data are not necessarily free for use and shared freely, because there is a problem with having a proper data management structure in these projects. So we have grouped the gaps that we identified in 3 categories. The first one is the obvious one, that observations are missing. And that is addressed by, as I mentioned, very international programs now. Then there are data existing, but data are not shared freely, which is the focus of this particular data portal and the data ingestion coupled to it. Then we have the sustainability gaps, as I already mentioned. And we also identified that, especially in the Arctic region, there is a need for technology development, including communication, because communication from the Arctic region can be difficult, and thereby it compromises the timeliness of the data availability. The report was reviewed by the Copernicus services and discussed on a meeting, a physical meeting we were able to do last autumn. And there we identified 3 activities that we should focus on. One was to prepare a catalog on ongoing and former time-limited research observation campaigns, which is an activity that we have performed this year. Then the second one is establish a data rescue task force. And this is put in red here because that's really one of the activities that we will focus on today. And the Arctic Data Portal is addressing this issue. And then we have an issue on opening up for Russian data, which is another activity that we are focusing on in the Copernicus in situ coordination activity. The activity on identifying projects, we identified 202 projects, some of them funded by EU, some nationally funded or regionally. 90 of these projects were focusing on marine observations. Out of the 202 projects, not all, we didn't get response from some of them, and some didn't have a component of in situ observations. But 160 projects had, and 70% out of these projects had some kind of restriction to their data availability. So that's why we have started to plan this Arctic Data Portal, something that we have worked on for a little more than a year. It was matured, you can say, in a conference, the Polar Data Forum, that took place a year ago, and where we organized a special workshop on marine data. And the organizations behind this workshop, which was the Copernicus in situ, it's CMEMS INSTAC and EMODnet Physics. We were charged with trying to establish such an Arctic Data Portal. And it was recommended that we should try and do it in a way similar to the one that has already been established for the Southern Ocean. Also, we tried to get SAON and the Arctic Data Committee to endorse this initiative. So here we are, 1 year later, we can present this data portal. We have hoped to have it ready before sometime earlier this year, but due to Corona and other things, we were a little bit delayed. But here it is. So I hope you will welcome the coming presentations. And the first one will describe the structure of the Arctic Data Portal. So I'm happy to give the floor to Antonio Novellino, who will give an overview of the Arctic Data Portal. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to share the screen. Okay, it's coming. Perfect. So welcome. Thank you, Eric, for the introduction. I am Antonio Novellino. I'm in charge of the coordination of EMODnet physics in collaboration with most of the people that are attending the panel list. And it is my pleasure to give you an introduction of the Arctic Data Portal and some of its features. Before we go to the demonstration, just one slide of background information that partially have been already presented by Eric. So the starting point is EMODnet physics. That is one of the 7 European marine observation and data network thematic portal. And we are going to have some more details about this in the coming presentation. The goal of EMODnet physics is to provide a single European point of access for both real-time, near real-time, and historical validated datasets. And the goal was to build on and in synergy with a ready, available, and running European program infrastructure. And so we did. So under the umbrella of EuroGOOS, we are deeply collaborating with the Copernicus Marine Environmental Monitoring Service, and in particular with the in situ TAC component of that, as well as with the CDataNet network of oceanographic data centers. And again, we are going to have some more details about the collaboration and the data flow we did the in situ TAC later on. Then we were asked to complete with other European and international data sources, the data sets and the subsets that we can make available on ocean physics. And so we were starting collaborating and integrated also other international repositories, for example, the Permanent Service for Mean Sea Level or the dataset from ICES and so on. And one main goal is also to support the end user community. So we started, an example is what we're doing with the SUS community, and Pip is going to present more details about this. And the other one is the activity that we are doing together for the Arctic. So here we go. As we introduced by Eric, we are going now to present the Arctic Data Portal and some of the features. So this is, a movie that I made it in order to present how the system is working. And so the portal is offering some tools in order to select the timing, for example, of the platforms that are available. So the user can switch from different time window. It can also customize the time windows, and the system reacts by presenting the platforms that are delivering data in that time window. Of course, we are also interested in parameters. So there is a filtering tool that lets the user to identify the parameters. So he can select on, for example, waves, temperature, and the system reacts by presenting the selection of the platforms that are providing those specific parameters. And so we can see that the system real-time update its information. But we can also select and fine-tune the selection by investigating on a given platform type of data network. So here, for example, I'm selecting the EuroGOOS, then CTDs, then drifting buoys. As you can see, sometimes it takes a little while when the data is huge, but anytime it presents the position and the availability of the platforms. One key things to say is also the importance of the synergies, because, for example, in order to make available CTDs, here now we can see the amount of the CTDs that are available in the Arctic Data Portal. That is huge, but it was possible only by collaborating with some of the infrastructure that I mentioned before. The key sources for this data is, of course, the Copernicus in situ TAC, but it was fundamental also the collaboration we had with Pangea. And in fact, here, for example, you can see this is the total amount of CTDs that are available in the area. And now I'm also showing, for example, the two subsets that we have. and how important is the collaboration between the different initiatives to contribute to the same, data portal and same goal. We are going to have a similar overview also in the coming presentations. So here you can see, for example, the subset of the Pangea data is coming. Yes, there you are. And then you see there are differences. And so you can also see the importance of the complementarity of the different data sources. Here we go, it's coming. And there you are. And so you can see that combining the different sources, then we can have a better overview of the area. Yeah. Then, of course, we are not interested only in doing an asset mapping, but we are also interested in accessing the datasets. So here, for example, I'm going from a selection to the platform page. So once we selected, we did our tuning of the selection of the parameters that we are interested in, then we can go to the specific platform, and then we can access some basic metadata that are already provided in the map viewer, and then we can go into details into the map platforms. And so I'm now showing some platforms details. This is an example for an Argo, and for each platform we created a dedicated platform page that is presenting the data according to the topology of the acquisition technology. So, for example, in case of time series, we have a chart. In case of Argo, we have profiles, and we are also representing and making available the specific composition of the data. So we have, for example, in this case, the temperature, pressure cycle, the salinity and pressure cycle, and so on. But it's not, we have more than this, because then you can also discover more data. Yeah, sorry, this is, I'm showing again. You can interact with the data sets, and then you can also create and download some of the pictures that are already available in the system. Here, we show some more features. Of course, all the platform pages are interactive. So if you move along the track of the platform, and you can see that you have highlighted the moment in which the is doing the profile, and then you can highlight, the system highlights the profile if you put on that. And then you have also quick tools to download the data. So here I'm showing how easy it is to download data. Then you get your packages, and then you find your netcdf files with the data. Here again, okay. Okay. Other feature that we developed are, of course, we are making available metadata and links to the institution that is providing these data sets, because it's quite important for us to provide the connection between the sources and the users. And you can find also in the page many other links, for example, to the DOI of the datasets, as well as we are making available a series of widgets that you can use in order to further integrate what this data portal is making available in a third-party system. So here you see, for example, this is already seen. Here you see, for example, how the widget works. So if you click on the M2M, and then you get the scripts for the widget, you access to the specific widget that is presenting the parameters that you selected, and then you can see that this widget is also interactive. And then if you manually change, for example, the time dimension of the time window of the widget. You, in a little while, require and query the datasets behind, and then you have the full list of the profiles in case of Argo that are being collected in that time window. Then you can select them. You can select also them all, and then you have the picture that you can also download as a PNG or a TFM, whatever. And then if you extend the time window of resolution, then you collect even more datasets from the same platform. Here again, just to show you the working methodology that you can have with these tools. And here again, this is the full story for that given Argo. And as I said before, then you can also download everything. Okay, this is a different example. This is an example for a marine mammals platform. Here again, we are showing the different profiles that are being collected. Then if you go to the plots, you see some more details about the single event. Then you can download the picture from the page. You can select the different formats. Then you have all these kind of tools in order to go through the services of the portal. And here again, you have the widgets. Of course, in case of marine mammals, the widgets are a little different because they are presenting data in a different way. Then you also have, in this case, the possibility to select for the quality. And another feature of the widget is that if you know the standard names for the parameters that are provided by that platform, you can easily customize the query and integrate this kind of tool in your third-party system. Okay. Then, of course, we are also supporting manual download from this platform page, and then you can select the format. In case of the platform page, you can select between TIN-SCTF or CSV. Here again, you see that a new folder has been created and you find your CSV files, so you can use them. Okay. 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 But not only, because we are also providing, another tool to select and download the data, because we are connecting everything with AirDAP. And so, for example, here I'm showing a query on the AirDAP that is behind the data portal that is looking for the same dataset, the marine mammal in this case, that I was presenting to you just a few seconds before. And so here you select the platform name, then you do your query, and then you get, the full datasets with all the details, with the metadata, the quality flags, and all the links for each single entries that we have. But what is very nice is that from that interface, then you can also decide the different typology of the formats that you can select and download. So you can select from many transport format and use them according to your needs. But if we are interacting with fixed platform that are providing time series, of course, the presentation of the panel is different. So here, for example, we are showing a fixed platform that is recording waves information. So you have all the customized view of this data set. Then you can switch the time window from 7 to 60 days. And then for each of the plots that you have, you can download it in a picture. And then you can also preview some, the data with all the information about data values and the quality checks and so on. So you can have some information about everything that is presented in the system. And of course, you have the same tools also to connect and interact with other typology of platforms. In this case, of course, you have a chart, it's not a profile. And then in case we also have aggregated dataset or averages, you can also interact with this kind of widgets. But we are also integrating other typology of platforms. This is an example of data recorded by fishing vessels. And so you can see, I mean, the information, the temperature is presented in false color along the depth and the time. And so you can see that, I mean, the interface is allowing the user to go in the different details from the different sampling up to the data presentation. Then we are also integrating drifting buoys. And again, the typology of the presentation is somehow customized. Here we see the different points of recordings along the track. We can switch to the different parameters that have been collected by the drifting buoys. We can switch, I mean, from 7 to 60 days to have an overview of the latest data recording. And then you have all the feature to download and create picture or download data sets from that specific platform. Here again, you see how it works and how reactive is the system. And then we also have, for example, gliders that are presenting data in a different way. Again, we are creating a personalized overview and platform page for the given platform. So here you have some typical presentation of the gliders data in different dimensions. Okay, so now I'm moving to my final slides. As we have seen, I mean, the system is integrating by means of the two European integrators of data that are the Copernicus in Situ and the CDataNet network of national geographic data centers, many of the already available international and national data sources. This is a list of the data that are already available in the system. And then, of course, we are really interested in extending the coverage and make a better and wider portal for the user benefit. My final slide is just to give you a brief overview of the backend and dissemination service and how the system is working. Basically, we have this, I mean, integration or connection layer that we call it the smart adapters. Here you can see that the quality check and quality flag is usually done before the data is coming into the EMODnet physics or the Arctic data portal. But I mean, in the coming presentation, you will get more details about the quality check and quality flag procedures. We do apply a metadata check for consistency of the vocabularies that we're using in order to present the data. And so we have this level of data harmonization. Once we have this step completed, data are made available into the EuroDAP as well as in the Postgres and PostGIS. And on top of these two main tools, we are making available all the different tools and widgets and interface and dissemination channels. So if we are interacting with the data itself, then we mainly interact with the EuroDAP. While if you are interacting with the spatial data and maps, then we are using and exploiting the GeoServer facility. And on top of them, we can also make available many interoperability services, and some of them have been presented. And this was my last slide. And I thank you very much, and I pass back the floor to Eric.
Thank you very much, Antonio. And the next presentation will be on data ingestion and given by Patrick Gorange. And while he is sharing his screen, I would like to stress again that if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A box. We will try and answer as many of the questions after the presentations, but we will also save them. So the questions we don't reply to, we will do that early next week. So please use the Q&A box for your questions. And the floor is yours, Patrick.
And you see my presentation there, Eric?
Yeah, fine.
Very good. Just there are a lot of questions pouring in, and as Eric says, we're going to try to answer them either now or after the webinar. Antonio, I think you answered to quite a few of them, especially with the final couple of slides. You nailed it pretty good there. I'm Patrick Orange. Welcome to my kitchen here in Söderköping in Sweden on a sunny day as it is today. I'm from the Swedish Meteorological and Hydrological Institute, but I'm heavily involved in EMODnet, and in particular in EMODnet physics, but also in the EMODnet data ingestion activities. I'll just give you a very brief background about EMODnet, since the Arctic portal is very much based on that, and give you a kind of introduction to the data ingestion portal. So if we look at EMODnet, it's a long-term European marine knowledge and initiative, knowledge initiative funded by the European Commission, by DG Mare. It's a marine knowledge broker, providing open and free access to marine data, products, services. It's a large network of more than 150 organizations. And as Antonio already said, collaborating with other similar initiatives such as the Copernicus Marine Service. It provides 7 thematic portals, a central portal, and a data ingestion portal. So EMODnet is about, it follows Inspire and Fair Data principles. It's about aggregated, harmonized, multi-parameter data sets, searchable metadata, provides data services, integrated data products, and web services, just like Antonio was showing. It's about data, metadata, data products, data services for these 7 different portals for geology, biology, chemistry, physics, seabed habitats, human activities, and bathymetry. We like to say collect data once and use it many times. These words are spreading all over the world because that's what everyone's aiming for. EMODnet likes to visualize and make data come alive. We want to increase the productivity and cost effectiveness by giving access to data that's already collected. So instead of you spending time going out searching for data, we try to pull this into one place. Adding value and impact to your data, raising awareness of your data and your activities by giving credit to the data providers. More data, more accessible to more people, more benefits for the community and society. And the more we share, the more the value. So really maximizing the impact and the reuse of marine data. The EMODnet works together with a network of more than 150 organizations. It's about to unlock hidden and fragmented marine data resources and make them freely available to everyone. The EMODnet data ingestion service seeks to find, reach out to, and motivate new data providers to make also their data part of this total offer. This can be both historical data, but also operational data streams. It was launched in 2017. The data ingestion portal aims at streamlining the data ingestion process so that data holders can easily share their data. In the ingestion portal, you can submit your archived data files, you can ingest operational data, view submissions, find guidelines, and if you're looking for data sets not yet in the EMODnet portals, tell us what you want via the data wanted service, and if we don't have it, we'll try to find it and wake this data up. Let's have a little bit closer look to how this works. In the data ingestion portal, then you can submit marine data files via the data submission service. As a data submitter, you're asked to complete a submission form with a number of key metadata and upload your data sets as a zip package together with other relevant documentation, such as reports on the observation activity, possible applied quality assurance, specifications of formats, and so on. This information will make it easier for data centers to review and work up the submissions for publishing your data. Once you've submitted your data file, the EMODnet ingestion portal managers will do a first check and then assign a data center, an NODC, National Oceanographic Data Center, that is best suited for further processing of the data. We have 44 European data centers waiting to guide you through the process. They provide long-term stewardship of the data and for making the datasets fit for inclusion to the EMODnet thematic portals, but also other European organizations and infrastructures such as CDataNet, ICs, EuroGOOS, and others. So the EMODnet data ingestion facilitates the inclusion of marine datasets, and at the same time is raising awareness of the data providers' activities and increasing the impact of their data. All datasets submitted through the submission service will be considered as open data, and submitted datasets will be published with acknowledgements to data providers and data originators. So this really applies for the archive datasets, but if we look at the near real-time ingestion, the real-time and near real-time ingestion works slightly different, as it is coordinated by the three pillars, as Antonio mentioned: Copernicus and Situ, CDataNet, and EuroGOOS. The entry point is via the data ingestion or directly via EMODnet physics. Data are collected through direct links with the data providers, and guidance is obviously and of course provided if you want it. So data can be provided in the originator's format, so there's no need for you to do the conversion to our preferred format, that is actually NetCDF. Everything to make it as easy as possible for you and for everyone to share their data. Data shared via the real-time route are also shared among the three pillars and made discoverable also to global users and initiatives. So EMODnet is a European initiative, but we only have one ocean. So we collaborate and connect data from other initiatives around the globe. Antonio mentioned some of them. One obvious one is Argo, but we also pull in data from the US through EuroGOOS, from Australia through IMOS and the EUDN, from SUS, Southern Ocean Observing System, and you'll hear more about that in a couple of minutes from PIP. Antonio, you also talked about Pangea. This was a collaboration between SUS and EMODnet Physics, and we managed to unlock tens of thousands of CTD cast all over the world. Pretty impressive, that one. That was nice. But we also get data from private companies such as Saildrone, Nord Stream, and the Baltic, just to mention a couple of them. And this Arctic portal will soon be available from the EuroGOOS website. EuroGOOS is one of the regional nodes under EuroGOOS, saving resources for EuroGOOS by reusing the Arctic portal. So we welcome data from the full 360 of the Arctic. Here, just another example of how we work to increase the availability of marine data. EMODnet Physics is always looking for and bringing together ocean observing communities. Here, we're working with Bering Data Collective to make data from fishing vessels. So this is data for oceanographic purposes to make them available. It's early days. We've only worked on this for a little bit more than a year, but we've had a very nice momentum during this year, where we identified a number of scientific and industry groups who are keen on to share data, many of them, as you can see, in the Arctic. And Bering Data Collective has set up a data flow from the data originators to the global fishy data portal, with data then flowing to EMODnet, Copernicus, and others, and really reaching out to the end users. So EMODnet collaborates internationally as an open source data product and web service provider, collaborating a lot with initiatives all over the world. We mentioned many of them. Another one to mention is the IODE. We have a project together with China. We are discussing with the UN Ocean Decade and many others. So we have an Arctic data portal. Please use the data, the products, the services it offers. We do have an Arctic portal, so please contribute and help us to get more data into it. And if you need help, we are here to help you out. to help you really to wake up your data. Have a look at the EMODnet ingestion website, and also please check out the video that is really summarizing everything I said in 3.5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick. And as have been mentioned several times during the previous presentation, there's a close link to Copernicus Marine Service and its in situ TAC. So it's a pleasure to give the floor to Sylvie Poulican, who will give us an introduction to the Copernicus Marine Service. The floor is yours, Sylvie.
Yeah. Just so hello everybody. So my partage d'écran, zut. I don't know what happened.
Your presentation disappeared. Here it comes.
Yeah, here is it. Okay. So my name is Sylvie Poulican. I work at IFREMER. I'm leading the Copernicus Institute Thematic Center and working with Arfin Morvik, who is there for the Arctic Park. And I'm also involved in EMODnet physics to make the link between EMODnet and Copernicus. So I will first introduce what is the Argo. Well, no, what is Copernicus. So Copernicus is a European Copernicus Marine Service that aims at providing global and regional monitoring and forecasting products covering real-time, which means daily or hourly products forecasting. So for the forecasting the future from 2 to 10 days, and also reanalyzing the past with products covering 10 to 45 years. It addresses essential ocean variable for the blue, physics, the white, sea ice, and the green, biological chemistry ocean, providing both observation products based on in situ and satellite, as well as numerical models with data assimilation. All these products are available on the marine.copernicus.eu website. From this website, you have access to all the information related to ocean products, but also ocean indicators that provide you information on trends, and also ocean state reports that provide you an analysis made by important group of scientists and operational users to provide a view of the synthesis of the 20 past years state of the ocean. This service is available from the marine.copernicus.eu portal, provide this product, but also provide user support through training, workshop, outreach, and a service desk that is available every day. So in situ has always been So in situ has already been seen as important. In fact, observing systems are important for the quality of the Copernicus Marine Service products. And there are both in situ and satellite observations that are used and assimilated in the model and or used for the validation of the model output. So within the Copernicus Marine Service, we have a CMEMS in situ thematic portal that ensures in situ data collection from a wide range of in situ data providers, and that integrates the data coming from these different sources into single products that are made available to the CMEMS users. So INSTAC is a distributed center that collaborate closely with networks both at international level through the GOOS and at a European level through EuroGOOS. It works also in close collaboration with EMODnet physics, chemistry, and ingestion in order to share on data access, data aggregation, and also data quality and data product generation. And it works also with CDataNet, CNATA Cloud that are managing for a long time or lots of observation acquired within a research campaign. So the in-situ tech, you have one component for the global and 6 components from the 6 regional seas, which one of them being dedicated to the Arctic. So in-situ thematic center is working on 6 parameters. So we are focusing on the currents, the carbon variable, ocean, chlorophyll, and nutrients, temperature, salinity, and waves. And for this group of parameters, we aim at collecting multi-source, multi-platform, heterogeneous data. We perform consistency checks on the quality, and we distribute them in a common format. So we choose the TDF, both in real time, which means within less than 24 hours. And for some platform, we are closer to 6 hours, to the CMEMS for carting sensor for assimilation and validation of the numerical models. We also supply to these modeling centers and downstream users reprocessed products covering 25 to 50 years and reprocessed in delay mode, which means that they go through a scientific assessment to check again the quality of the data, but not through automatic procedure, but for scientific assessment, for reanalysis purposes, and for climate studies. So the products, the platforms that we are managing are quite various. So it goes from Argo Float, drifting buoys, ice-tested profiler, research vessel, mooring data, gliders, HF radar, ferry box, coming and aggregating either through EuroGOOS international network or from the European Global Ocean Observing System. So the way the in-situ thematic center is acting is that it is first acquiring data from the various providers that are more than 500 presently globally. We do some real-time quality control, which means automatic procedures that allow us to detect the data that are obviously bad. We harmonize everything into a unique format using vocabularies, commonly agreed vocabularies, so that we are able to provide near real-time products through the central dissemination unit of the Copernicus Marine Service. The second step is to do on a 6-month basis what we call a delay mode reprocessing, where we make a snapshot of the data that have been aggregated in the past 6 months. We do some validation with a scientific assessment with scientists that are looking at the data in order to update reprocessed products that cover historical periods, so from 25 to 50 years, depending on the variables. All these data are made available through CMEMS, but also are made available to the Arctic data portal. Just to give you an idea on the amount of how CMEMS is contributing to the Arctic data portal, I made some snapshots from the Arctic data portal. And you can see for the last 7 days of data, a significant part is coming from Copernicus. Similarly, for the latest year, so dealing with data that are not completely real time, again, a significant part is coming from CMEMS. And on the past 10 years of data, this is where we see more difference, because there are some data streams that have not been connected yet to the Copernicus Marine Service, and there are some variables that are managed through EMODnet physics connected to the Arctic portal that are not managed within the Copernicus, because it's not in the group of variables that we are processing. So the challenges for managing operational data in the Arctic is that due to the difficulty to acquire in-situ observation in the Arctic, because the environmental conditions are difficult, that automatic data transfer is not always possible, because sometimes you have some instruments that stay under ice for a long time. because they are also expensive to acquire, so we have less observations that exist in more easy to monitor areas. Then, because of these challenges, it's even more important in the Arctic to acquire ones and use multiple. When we start to aggregate data on longer periods, then we have some challenges with this with developing these products. Challenges in identifying new data sources, because this is not a long experience of data sharing within this community. We have also the availability of data, where there is longer delay than in other areas of the world to make this data available, because they are longer to process, longer to also retrieve from the platforms that are not sending the data in near real time. And as for all the historical data, where we have often issues on metadata, where data are not as fair as we would like to make the products. So we would really urge you to contribute to this initiative and to unlock access to existing data, because we can also help you to enhance the way you make the data available, and we can support you in making the data more easily accessible to a wider community. And we can also help you and provide you feedback by having the capability to compare your data with other data sources. And as these data are also used in the model, they are integrating and providing are more visible for a wider range of users, or use also to improve the models that are generated in this area, or for satellite validation and comparison, because they are all using in situ data in their processing. So last few slides is to show you that the Copernicus Marine is planning presently for the next 6 years. And even if this slide is subject for approval by the European Commission, it will show you that in this perspective and the discussions that we are having for developing Copernicus in the next decade, Arctic and the White Ocean is high in the agenda, and is identified as one of the drivers guiding CMEMS long-term evolution. That because we are targeting in CMEMS high-resolution integrated blue, green, and white monitoring and forecasting products, it's important to rely also and to extend the coverage of the in-situ observation in the area, and also to see that polar environment monitoring is high in the users that are targeted in this new phase. And finally, if we look at the area where CMEMS has planned to improve the services in the next decade, we see that the Arctic, together with biology, coastal, climate, and digital, are one of the area where CMEMS is planning to put a lot of energy in the coming decade. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sylvie. And the final presentation is about the SUS experience. The SUS data portal is the inspiration for this Arctic data portal. So I'm very happy that I can introduce Pete Brishner to give a presentation on SUS map. Pete,
hello. Do my slides show up for everybody?
Yeah, it looks good.
Thank you. So I am Pip Richer. I am the data officer for the Southern Ocean Observing System. And having a look through the attendee list for tonight's meeting, I realised there's probably a lot of people who aren't familiar with SUS. SUS is one of the regional ocean observing systems, and we are entirely circumpolar, roughly up to the 40 degrees south mark. One of the things I've discovered in the last couple of years is quite how different the various OOSs are. So to try and explain, SUS is very multidisciplinary. We cover kind of everything that is environmental sciences, and is reasonably connected to the oceans. So penguins nest on land, but they feed in the ocean. Glaciers melt into the ocean. So we kind of care a bit about them. And we are very multinational. So we have members from 36 nations. There are 53 nations that have signed up to the Antarctic Treaty and collect data in the Southern Ocean. Everything we do pretty much is done by our powers of persuasion. We don't have large sources of funding that allow us to tell people how they're going to deploy their equipment in the ocean and therefore what they're going to do with the data afterwards. We do it all with a smile and charm. And so for us, SUSMAP is a really important part of making the SUS community tangible and real and something that people can touch. So susmap.aq is the very simple address for it. And it was built for us by Patrick, Antonio and Marco at EMODnet Physics. It started life in 2017 simply as the EMODnet Physics portal put into a South Polar projection and showing our end of the world using just the data feeds that were already coming into EMODnet servers. And since then, our data committee, of which we have a few members in the audience here tonight, and I have worked with the EMODnet and EuroGOOS crew to fill out some of the gaps. And so here's a quick list of the platforms that we host within SUSMAP. Many of them are the same as you will find, most of them are the same as what you'll find in the Arctic portal. You can thank us for having marine mammal data in there. So the marine mammals are predominantly seals, though in tropical areas, turtles count as mammals, where they put CTD loggers on their heads and they go to areas where Argo floats can't or can't go successfully, typically in really ice-strewn areas. And that's a data set that was out there. It was discoverable as long as you knew where to go and you knew how to access it and you knew your way around a NetCDF files. So we pulled that into the EMODnet servers, and it's obviously crucial in the Antarctic and likewise in the Arctic. On the right-hand side of your screen are a set of data sets that are specific to SUS. They're not of, most of them were organised by Antarctic communities, and so there just aren't data in other parts of the world. And they're also outside the physics mainstream. These are mostly biological things like ecosystem monitoring and continuous plankton recorders. I saw a question in the Q&A box about plastics, so I'll talk about that group in a moment. And those data sets aren't fully integrated into the EMODnet ERDAP server, so you can't do the time filtering and the subsetting, at least not yet. But they serve a really important role for us in organising our community. We find that SUSMAP is used in a few main ways, where people are really looking for bulk data downloads, the kind of people who want thousands of Argo floats worth of data at once. They're doing direct machine-to-machine, hit up the ERDAP servers directly. For people who are looking to discover smaller numbers of data sets, they're the ones who are going through our map interface and exploring and subsetting and downloading. And the other way that gets used is in thinking about and planning our observing system. And so I'll explain an example that some of our committee members are using with their students. They send their students to look through SUSMAP and see what observations are being made when and where, and to design programs to fill the gaps in the observing system to answer specific questions. So it's getting used in an educational setting. Our observing system design committee within SUS is working in a similar way to figure out what the actual, how we actually can fill the holes in a real world example. And it gets used as a communications tool to say, hey, what data are out there? Whose data are in there? And one of the things that's really useful about this map interface is that it is obvious when your data are missing. So program heads say, hey, there's a hole here and we don't have any data and I know something got collected, and it's useful for us to say, great, now we know what targets we need to hit up to fill in some holes. And it's useful for them to know that their data aren't making its way through the data management system to be easily discoverable. Whereas if people were just searching in a text-based format, say a metadata catalog, all of that stuff just gets hidden. So for us, it's a really valuable communication tool. And here's a kind of nice example of this. So we had 5,000 CTD casts in SUSMAP, courtesy of the standard setup that EMODnet already had in place, particularly with Copernicus. And I went to our group who work in the Waddell Sea, which is this area I'm circling with my mouse now. And they said there's heaps of data. It all gets stored in Pangaea, and Pangaea's in Europe. It should all be in EMODnet. So we worked with the folk at Pangaea, and now we have 23,000 CTD casts south of 40 degrees south and about 200,000 in the world. We just filled a small hole there. And I know we have a lot of work to do with the Australians and with the Americans to fill in some more holes, but we will continue to pack that out in a way that works for us and also serves the global interests of EMODnet. And the more we can get feeds, non-duplicated, clean feeds of data into one place so people don't have to go and hunt down their CTD casts from 10 different portals, the happier I will be and the more useful we will be to our scientists. And I've just thrown an extra slide in, prompted by a couple of questions that I saw in the chat box. These are a few of the layers that are SUS specific that haven't made it onto the EMODnet servers yet, but I think they're really valuable. So someone was asking about plastics. This is the output of the SCAR, the Standing Committee on Antarctic Research, Plastics in Polar Environments Group. The really new young field. They don't have data standards assigned yet. They're all just finding their feet. And there are enough data managers in the audience here that I'm going to be slightly embarrassed to say that this layer, so that's the blue squares, is fed entirely off a Google Sheet, which about a dozen people have edit access to. And they're using that to organize their community and to figure out what they need to do in the future with a more formalized data sharing process. But this gives the community a space to organize. Similarly, we have the SUS mooring network in yellow. When we started, I think there were about a dozen moorings turning up on SUSMAP. And they're the long-term deep water moorings that come through ocean sites, and there's a really well-established data feed for them. There's about 800 moorings that have been deployed over the last 50 years south of 40 degrees that we know of. And again, we're running this as a Google Sheet. And at the moment, all we have is where and when they went in the water and came out, who's responsible for them, and a link to the data. And these data are a mess. They are an unholy mess of 50 years of non-standard data management. But before we can fix that, we needed to know what the scale of the problem was. So we're using SUSMAP as a way to organize that community and say, hey, here's what comes next. One of our scientists had already worked on doing something very similar with sea ice chlorophyll cores. And so that was data that was hidden away in a metadata catalog, and we're now pushing it out as servable data. And we're about to double that when we take in some fast ice data in the incoming months. So there's some really nice opportunities. And here I've just highlighted data that weren't easily available at all and didn't really have a system for being made available. But SUSMAP has given us an avenue and an excuse to make those things happen. Now, I know we're short on time, so I'm going to stop. But I'd particularly like to thank Patrick, Antonio, and Marco, who have made SUSMAP a reality for us. And SUSMAP has made SUS much more tangible and real for an organisation that has a secretariat of 2.5 people. So thank you all.
Thank you very much, Pip, for a nice presentation. We have now some time to try to answer to some of the questions. I see there have been forwarded a lot of questions in the Q&A box, and some of them are already replied to, but we will try and we will go through them afterwards and maybe reply to all the questions and circulate it among all the people registered for this webinar. so that we can give a proper answer and so on. But let's use the remaining time to take some of the questions up. I noticed that there are a few questions on which data are in, and people already mentioned here in one of the last slides that there were additional data on the way in the SUS map. So maybe Antonio and Patrick, you could try to reply a little bit and say a little bit about what is possible to enter into the data portal right now and what are the plans, and there was also a question about data quality and so on. So could you touch a little bit upon that, and others can add into it also from INSTAC side and so on?
Okay, I go first.
You start.
Okay.
You've been typing away something amazingly, Antonio. Every time I try to go to a question, you're already been there. So
no, but
well done.
I mean, this is, I would say that there were many questions that were very similar, asking for which kind of data can we integrate into the portal. So basically, what the PIP nicely presented the activity that we are doing in collaboration with the SUS. Here, the idea is to follow the same approach. So if we have a specific data set or data layer that is crucial for the community, we can think about to integrate it. So we can integrate almost everything, but of course we need to agree on the topology of the data. So, for example, in case I was checking some of the questions about, for example, the genomics or the biology, that are a kind of data that are more complex because we are building the Arctic data portal on top of the EMODnet physics. So we are managing ocean physics data. For genomic and biology, there are other thematic portals that are taking care of that, and these data are not flowing into physics. So if there is a strong need from this community to have that kind of data set on top of, together with the ocean physics data set, we need to discuss. So it is possible. We have to write down a plan and discuss together how to make it possible. Then there was another question that I think it's good to mention is what could be the message for future data? Okay, future data, I mean, make it available. So point us to the place where we can find this data, and so we can integrate into the system. We can integrate it into the system by means of the different collaboration we have with people that are going to take care about the quality, as the Copernicus in Situ is doing, as the Pangea is doing, as the SUS community is doing. So we, as let's say, modern physics and Arctic data portal are going to be the final shopping window for all these, data and community. And we need, and your support, and we need the collaboration with all the players that we are collaborating and on top of which we are building, this kind of tools. I don't know, Patrick, if you want to add something more on that.
I think you did well there. I'm on the questions here too, so.
Maybe Sylvie can add something on the data quality.
Sylvie, I think that's your part on the data quality.
Yeah, so if I can complement on first of the type of data, as you have seen, there is a difference between EMODnet and CMEMS is that CMEMS is targeting a set of variables. So and for this set of variables, we are going a step further because we are not only integrating the data, but we are also trying to identify the data that are obviously bad in order to flag them, which is a certain level of quality. We are not correcting them because we don't have the expertise to correct them and not have the ancillary data to correct them, but we are able at least to identify the ones that are suspicious and avoid a user that is not expert to use them. So this is the value added of that CMEMS is bringing, and therefore the data that we are providing then to the Arctic portal is of better quality. And what I was also pointing out, if you want to share the data, you need to attach to your data a significant number of data, metadata, information on the processing. If you want this information to be carried on within the products, we will not be able to invent them, but we will be able to use them in order to build products afterwards. So it's important from now on that you think FAIR principles, how to add a maximum of information on the data, through metadata, and also, as Antonio was saying, make your data widely available. You will benefit from the others who will be using your data and providing feedback on anomalies that they may find, because the more users use the data, the cleaner they will be at the end.
I can only echo that, but it's also this portal is a way to raise awareness to your activities, your data. We always point to in discussion with data providers, we put the metadata up that's visible if you go to the platform page in it. So people can easily find your activities, they point to the links that you suggest. So it's really a lot of raising awareness to your activities. And reaching out to a global community at the same time.
Yeah, and there have been some questions on format, and maybe Patrick or Antonio, you should try to explain that how you address formats when people contact you and say they have some data they are ready to share, and how you can help them ingest the data into the system. So maybe you can.
I can just start on that, and then I hand over to you, Antonio, because we just ask to be pointed to the data so we can have a first look at it, and we make a judgment on if we can immediately ingest it with because we have the components we need. If not, we will go back to the data originator and initiate a discussion. Antonio, you take it from there.
Yes, I mean, as also anticipated by Sylvie, one key important level of information we need is the metadata, how this data has been created, because these will be together with the data forever. So if you really want your data to be used by the wider community, it's good that we collect this information as soon as possible and we attach it to the data. Then, of course, some metadata can be filled afterwards. I mean, we can start a process, as Patrick said, we can start a process on the data, but we need to interact with the data provider, of course, in order to, I mean, do it synergically. So we need to collaborate on this. Then for the typology of the data, I mean, the key, let's say, the golden standard for the data transport in this kind of data sets is the netcdf file. Now it is the version 4, and we usually apply the CF convention 1.6. But I would say that we are now moving more and more to the deeply use of ERDAP as backend infrastructure. This has been also promoted by EuroGOOS as the middleman technology to really facilitate interoperability and let the providers to be more FAIR compliant, and it will really act like a sort of data transport translator, because it already supports a wide use of data formats, and there is increasing community that is supporting this open project, so they can add new data formats to be handled in that system. So to say, I mean, it's I don't see big problems to handle new data formats because the community is quite huge. Of course, I mean, if the provider is already using or adopting, let's say, common standards, so it's netcdf or is ODV files or other, wide adopted and used standards, then it will be straightforward, the integration. And then, of course, another things to mention is that, as we said, we are collaborating with many institutes, experts, and so then we can also discuss with key experts of that data format, that platforms, in order to understand how far it is from the how complex will be the integration. And in this, for example, again, the support of the Copernicus and Situ is quite fundamental because they already have tools to handle many different typology of data formats and data streams for many different platform networks. So, I mean, in the end, it's really more the motivation and the, unlocking the first step of the collaboration. Yes.
I was just going to say that the first step is usually the most difficult one, and that is to get to the data. Then we have tools. We've been working with this for 10 years or more. EMODnet has been there for over 10 years now. Copernicus longer, so we've seen everything. We've really been through every kind of format available. So it's really to get to the step to reach to the data and then take it from there.
And of course, we are also exploiting, the collaboration from other user community, because the collaboration with the SUS is, I would say, amazing, because we'll learn a lot also in handling new data formats, because, for example, we are able to handle a data layer about the penguin distribution. That is something very, I would say it's far from ocean physics. But eventually, in order to, meet that community needs, we started investigating how to handle this kind of shape files. And so we have all the, the processing steps in order to make it possible. And this can be replicated easily on the Arctic community as well.
So it's a lot depending on the needs. This is a portal for you. So we listen to your needs and we try to adapt. So any kind of wishes for additional data, we're open to discuss and to in discussion with the community on how to present it in the portal. Pip, you've been waiting for a while.
I noticed there were a few questions in the chat earlier about biological data and data sets outside the physical oceanography world. And I don't want to insult any physical oceanographers when I say that physical oceanography data is a lot simpler than some of the weird and wonderful stuff we have in the biology world, for a couple of reasons. One is when there's 40 years of work standardizing conventions in this world that have not necessarily, there's just not that depth of time in a lot of the biological fields. And there's not always that backbone of, almost everything you do in physical oceanography, you have temperature and salinity and maybe some other things. They form a backbone that you just don't always get in biology. So we have, I thought I might just talk a little about how we've made some decisions about what to add, particularly on the biology side. So the obvious thing that you would add first into your multidisciplinary portal on the biology side would be EuroGOOS, the Ocean Biological Information System, which is presence, absence, and abundance data. There are 3 million observation points south of 40 degrees. We would destroy EMODnet servers if we tried to push them through. Your map would never load and you would just, things would be sad. So we've not done that. What we've instead done is use the idea of platforms as a bit of a metaphor. We've said, let's find like kinds of observations where someone has done the standardization and the cleaning up. So we have Krillbase, which is, I think there's 2 or 3 main observation methods that are used to observe krill and salps. And the data are all cleaned up and they're beautifully maintained by BAS. And we said, there's a comprehensive clean data set, many nations, many different people contributing to it, but it's coherent. Likewise, the penguin data has a few of my counts in it, but it's got counts of penguins from many, many nations over the last 70 years, cleaned up into a standard feed of one thing. And so that's kind of driven our decision-making around biological layers. We have a number of them in the pipeline, just waiting for Marco to have 5 minutes to push them through for us. But we really did try to think about coherent data sets that we can add to over time, but that are more than just one project or one nation's worth of work. And, I'm just going to put out a completely selfish appeal. Please don't add things to the Arctic portal, because Antonio and Marco are far too busy putting SUS stuff in for me.
We
I
have
just want
Or if you
to
can add Arctic stuff, add global
Okay.
Arctic stuff.
I just want to add to what Antonio said. If you have data from the Arctic which fits in the CMEMS portal, you can do it quite easily, because the thematic center for Arctic will do all the data conversion for you, because we have to put it in the official format which CMEMS is using. So that's a very easy way to share the data with the community.
So again, help us to identify the data, to help us to point to it. Yes, yes, Pip. Because
Okay,
then
would,
we can really help you out to pull it into the portal.
Yeah. We have a question here saying, can the portal access and display data from national public accessible databases or portals and mix displayed data? Can you give a short answer to that?
A short answer. Antonio, give a short answer.
Sorry,
I
was typing, so I missed the question.
Yeah. Can the portal access and display data from national public accessible databases or portals and mix the displayed data?
Yes, it can do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exactly in line with what we were saying before. It depends on the topology of the data. So if it is ocean physics, so the best will be to integrate this into, an already designed data flow. So Copernicus in Situ. Of course, it depends where the nation is, and if is something different from ocean physics, as Pip said, would be good to have a consistent data package. So discuss bit before with this community, and then we can plug it into the system.
So I just want to say that, so because that was also one of the questions, that yes, we are reusing the global EMODnet physics portal. We're doing it in the Arctic, we're doing it in the Southern Ocean. We're also doing it for projects. We're doing it on national, regional basis as well. Creating a dedicated portal with the basis of EMODnet physics as a kind of service, because that would then turn into a win-win. People don't have to waste funding on building their own portals to make use of an already existing one. We connect the data, we get it into EMODnet, and that's the win-win there. So don't, in future projects, don't consider to put too much funding on portals. Just focus on make the data available.
Yeah, that's a good message. There are some questions on links to other data infrastructures like the Arctic spatial data infrastructure and also PAMA's Arctic ship traffic data. Is that something that could be considered in the future, do you think?
I don't know too much about it. Pip, you're nodding. You know.
I think they've. I don't know the back end of either system, but we have bathymetry data in the SUSMAP portal, which is very similar to some of the stuff that's in ASDI. And we have had conversations about pulling ship traffic information into SUSMAP from similar databases in the Southern Ocean, which we have not done because it involves confidential information from national Antarctic programs, and it's all politically challenging. But I don't believe in our conversations about that there was anything technically hard about, location of ship. That's fundamental near real-time data that's pretty straightforward to serve up. So we've explored that, the other end of the world, even though we haven't quite implemented it yet.
No, well, I can supplement and say this portal is now new. It's there. We are trying to open up for entering data and whatever we can do to expand it in the future with new things and requested by the users. There are big user groups and also scientists who want to have access to data. Whatever, let us know the the requirements for data, and let's see how we can address it also in the future, so we can expand the possibilities to serve the users. The time is approaching the ending time, so there is a very good final question here, I think. Do you have any plans to inform users of the portal about new data being added? So that's a very concrete and user service-minded thing. So maybe that's a good way to end the discussion.
And a good question. It depends, right? I mean, so as now we have so what we do is if we get new data in to EMODnet physics, it also goes directly to Sylvie and Arfin, to the Copernicus and Situ tag, but we actually do not currently inform about particular, well, it depends a little bit. We do a lot on social media. So some new data sets, we show them on social media, but we don't produce like a monthly report on new data sets. We don't do that yet.
Okay, that was, I think we approached the end. As I have said a couple of times before, we will store the questions. We will make sure that we reply to all of them and circulate to all those who have registered for this webinar, so that everybody can have a chance to read the replies to them. We will do our very best to reply in a good manner. For me, there's only now to thank, first of all, the panelists. Thank you for being available, ready to give a presentation and an overview of this portal and all the work that is done behind it, and links to international cooperation and things like that. And then I would like to thank all the participants in the webinar. I hope that you have got an impression of this tool that is now available. And I will repeat what has been said before. Please use it. It's very important that we try to get as much data into the system, because when data, the measurements are done, it's important that data are available and can be used not only by the one who have done the observations, but also the community, because that is the best benefit we can get out of the investment of the observations. So thank you for your interest and for attending the webinar. We hope that we will meet you as a user and provider of data for the Arctic Data Portal. By that, I will wish you a very good weekend. Hope you will enjoy it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody.